Hello, this is Tiffany Almeida with Pretty in Paper Crafts, and I'm going to teach you today how to make our Mermaid shaker card. This is using the Magical Day framelits and stamp set, and it just makes a very magical shaker card, as you can see, and I love how it's in the shape of a heart. So I'm going to show you how we did this today. Your class kit will include the base, which is Bermuda Bay, and it's cut at 5.5 by 8.5 and it's scored at 4 1/4. It will open sideways, as you can see here. And then you have a piece of 5.5 by 4. This is going to be the front of your card that we are going to work with. Your piece will already come embossed with the seaside framelit, so you will already have the ridges and your hearts already cut out. But I'm going to go ahead and do that with this piece so you can see how I did it. And then I also am going to sponge color my word amazing and cut it out, so I'll show you how I did that. Yours already came cut out, but you still need to do the sponging. You'll also have a piece of 3.5 by 3.5 of the designer series paper, the Miss and Magic designer series paper, and this is the kind of glittery water bubbles that is the background of inside the heart. And then it's kind of hard to see because of the sequins, but there is a second layer of the scalloped designer series paper, and so there is in the framelit set a scallop kind of cuts out waves, and so we're going to cut a piece of this designer series paper to match that scallop. Your piece will already be cut, but I'm going to go ahead and run these pieces through. And then the other thing is you're going to have a piece in there that's just a piece of Whisper white cardstock. It's not stamped or colored for you. You need to own the stamp set or use one that you already have. And if you have the framelits, you can use those, or you can cut them out by hand. But I already went ahead and did my coloring ahead of time, so you didn't have to sit there and watch me do that. So I have my little pieces ready to go. So the first thing that we need to do is some embossing. And so I'm going to emboss the seaside design on the paper. Now, the one thing that I noticed with the embossing folder is it does tear the paper easily, and so what I find that helps is just spritzing some water on it to make it a little bit more pliable. So I'm going to go ahead, I just have a generic spray bottle filled with water, and I'm just going to go off camera here and spray it a couple times. It doesn't need to be very wet, just a little bit. And that just helps it bend and move and give and not tear the paper. So bring my big shot into view here. And I'm just going to run that through to get that embossed. Oh, can't use the magnet though. I need to use the regular platform. So I've got my regular platform, I've got the two plates and the embossing folder. So just run that through real quick. Move this out of the way for a second. And you've got your seaside, and that is just perfect. It's just what we expect to see. So now we're going to do some more framelit work. We're going to cut the rest of our pieces. So you want to bring your magnet, if you have a magnetic plate, that's the best. Then put one of your base plates down and your embossed piece. And then I'm using the Sweet and Sassy framelits. I'm using one of the hearts to cut out my heart shape in the center of my piece. And it's just slightly up to the top. Now this part is already done for you, so you do not have to do this. But if you want to make this card again in the future, it's nice to know how the heck I did it. Okay, so you've got your heart cut out and in the center of your piece. So that's all set. Now we need to do a couple more cutting. We're going to cut the scallop from our little piece of designer series paper. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And it's okay if I didn't cut it the right size. It's not a big deal. I will just trim off what I don't need. So we'll just run that through. And then there's one more piece that we need to cut, but I'm not quite ready. I need to actually color onto it. So I have my piece of Whisper white cardstock. I have just a wedge of one of the sponges. I just cut my sponges into slivers. You can see I've used the other side, but I'm going to use the side that's clean, and I'm going to use my Bermuda Bay ink. And I'm just going to sponge up the paper. Now, you don't have to do it this way. You could actually cut out the words first and then sponge. But I'm just gonna do this first. And there's no rhyme or reason to it. I mean, you could do it lightest in the bottom, darkest in the top, vice versa. But I kind of want it to just be wherever. So I've gotten my Celebrate You Thinlits, and it comes with the 3 words, amazing, you, and celebrate. We're gonna be using the word amazing. So bring my Big Shot back in. Lay my piece down and my framelit on top. And have it where we want it. And run it through. It's really nice to have your piercing tool or your Big Shot brush handy so to push out all of the little pieces because you don't want it to tear. I'm just pushing out all of the pieces there and making sure that it comes out. The only thing that didn't, there we go, got the G out. So, and there you go. Super simple. Sponging is kind of a cool technique, and it helps it pop out from the white background. So, we have gotten all our pieces cut. Now the one thing, well, there's actually 2 things with this card that I did not provide. Those are the 2 things that you need to already own. And one of them is the window sheet because they come in a pack of 2 or 3 sheets, I think. And so that is something that you'll need to provide. So I have a piece of window sheet. This one's cut at 3 inches by 3.5. You could cut it at 3.5 by 3.5, but just make sure that one side is at 3.5 so that it's wide enough for the entire heart. And then you'll need, the other thing I did not provide is iridescent sequins. You need to have some sort of sequin or some sort of filler that's going to be your shaker material. Now you could actually even, if you have the framelits, there are pieces that you could cut out with the framelits, like the bubbles or these little stars looking things, even the seaweed or the little seahorses. There's things that you could cut out and use as filler with cardstock if you don't have sequins. But those are the 2 things that I did not provide in the kit that you already need to have on hand. So let's go ahead and start assembling the card. I'll show you how I did this. I'm going to go ahead and trim down my little scrap piece that has the water kind of waves looking design, and I'm going to actually sponge the ends, the wavy part of it, just to make it stand out even a little bit more because it's layering on top of another piece of the exact same designer series paper. So that's just going to help it pop out a little bit more. Like I said, the sequins are probably going to disguise it from you, so you can't really tell, but it's just the little details that count, I think, that make a card even that much greater. Okay, oh, and the last thing, I actually lied to you, there's one other thing I didn't provide, and that is the adhesive foam strips. You need to have these. They are vital for making shaker cards. You need this. So the first thing we need to do is actually glue down our window sheet to the back of our seaside embossed piece of cardstock. So what I'm actually going to do is take my liquid glue and just put a line of glue, a thin line of glue, it doesn't need to be a lot, all the way around the heart. And this is going to glue our window sheet down. You don't want too much because you don't want it to squeeze and go out the edges and be seen from the front. But you don't want any of the heart, the hole to be free from the window. So just make sure you've glued that down really well. I'm just holding it down so it has a second to dry. And then the next thing you're going to do once that is dry, I just want to make sure it is dry, is you're going to build the shape of the heart with your foam adhesive strips. So I've got a piece of my adhesive strip. It's one side is on the back of the paper, and they're sticky on both sides, and one of the sides peels off. So don't peel it off until you're quite ready. This one already is kind of coming off a little bit, but I'm just going around the border of the heart and sticking down one side of the adhesive strip. You don't need it to be too far away from the heart because the farther away you are, the more filler you waste that you can't see through the window. So consider that when you're building your frame around your shape, that you don't leave too much space, because then you need even more filler for it to even be seen through the window. But you don't want it too close because you don't want to see it through the window either. Okay, so I'm building my little heart. When you get back to the other piece, you can trim off the excess. And I always stick mine back down on my sheet because I don't want to waste. I'll use it for another project. So we'll set that aside. Okay, so you can actually peel the backing off of that when you're ready. And then we're going to do the second piece, which is put down our designer series paper and our little second piece, that's the scallop piece. And you can actually kind of lay this over and figure out where it is you need it to be. You know, how you're going to lay your heart. That is looking pretty good. I'm actually kind of happy with that. So we need to actually glue this down. I'm gonna have to reposition this. I'm just putting some runner on the back of my designer series paper. Okay, and I'm just gonna put that in the center of my card. It's all gonna be covered by the heart, so it's pretty simple to kind of eyeball where that needs to go. And I actually, with my first shaker card, nope, I didn't, never mind. I actually glued it down just like the other one. So I'm gonna slide this down just a little bit. I'm actually gonna put my heart back over and make sure that's where I want it. So that looks about good. So I'm gonna go ahead and press that down like so. Okay, now I want my mermaid and my little seahorse to be on dimensionals. I'm gonna have my mermaid kind of slightly over my scallop a little bit, and then my seahorse kind of up in the corner. So I'm gonna get my dimensionals and pop them up on dimensionals. Kind of makes it look like they're swimming in the heart. Kind of cool. So we're gonna put her right about there. It should be good. And our little seahorse, we will put him right next to her, but a little bit higher, like so. Okay, now it's time for sequins. And this part, you're gonna actually want the sequins to be in the center of the bottom piece. That way when you put your heart over the top, you aren't dumping sequins or trying to figure that all out. So you're actually just gonna pour some sequins onto the center of your card, just like so. You can actually get it off her face. We just want it to be in the center so that it doesn't get in the way of putting our heart down. And now we're just going to make sure we've centered our heart. Actually, before I jump too far ahead, there's a couple other places you want to put your foam adhesive strips. And this is to kind of support the heart, because you can see the only part that we have adhesive is around the heart, but the top and bottom of our card are not supported. So I'm actually going to use that scrap piece of my foam strip for the top, and I'm going to cut another piece for the bottom. And this will just kind of help our card not to cave in the top and bottom. So let me go ahead and peel those off. You could also, you could also do an outside frame, but I think this is enough adhesive. You can put as much as you feel you need. All right, so now I'm just trying to center the card, make sure the top and bottom are even, and glue it down. Make sure my heart is pushed down and sealed down real well, and the top and bottom are sealed down. And there you go. See, now you've got your seahorse and your mermaid and your sequins. And now all we need left is to put our little amazing piece on. So I'm just going to actually use my silicone sheet. You could use a scrap piece of paper, something, but you want to lay something underneath your surface here so that you don't get glue everywhere on your work surface, because as you can see, I just put too much Tombow on. Just by slightly squeezing, a whole bunch came out. So you want to be careful. You could also use the fine tip liquid glue. It's a little bit easier, but it's not as tacky and quick drying as the Tombow glue. So at least I have my silicone sheet underneath, so I am okay. I'm gonna move that out of the way. Put this right about here. You can put it wherever you like. Uh-oh, doesn't want to stick. There we go. And there you have it. And you have a very beautiful, not difficult at all, simple but elegant little shaker card. Pretty fun, huh? I hope you enjoyed this video and tune in for the next one.